The term cognitive dissonance is fairly well known among those who regularly engage in open debates and intellectual discourse. However, despite its common usage, many people don't fully understand the concept or understand the origins and impact made by the man who coined the term and the theory behind it. Hi, I'm R.
And I'm Jay.
And in this video, we're going to talk about Leon Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance. Let's get started. In 1959, Leon Festinger published his work on a theory of cognitive dissonance. This theory helps explain human behavior by describing the internal thought processes which could lead to particular behaviors, and is described as a theory of cognition in behavioral psychology. This was a paradigm shift in the field of social psychology because prior to this, behaviorism was the standard philosophy among social psychologists. Behaviorism is an approach to understanding the behavior of animals and humans by examining an organism's response to stimuli found in the environment, explaining behaviors as learned responses to stimuli resulting from reward and punishment outcomes. This differs to the approach of cognitive psychologists who attempt to explain behavioral outcomes as processes determined by internal structures of the brain attempting to navigate through the environment. When first published, Festinger's theory met significant criticism from behaviorists who believed external behaviors were the only reliable measure in the field of psychology. Many psychologists of the time viewed cognition as a temperamental and unscientific concept. Because neuroscience was in relative infancy at the time Festinger released his theory, these criticisms were perfectly reasonable, though possibly invalid, as the predictive power of Festinger's theory proved to be quite substantial. And as neuroscience has progressed and our understanding of the human brain has improved, the concept of cognition as a predictor for human behavior has gained significantly more weight.
So, what is cognitive dissonance theory? Simply put, cognitive dissonance theory states that if a person holds two incompatible beliefs or behaves in a way which is incompatible with a currently held belief, they will experience emotional discomfort referred to as dissonance. This discomfort pressures the person to resolve that internal inconsistency as soon as possible, which can be achieved in a few different ways. Festinger provides several ways in which a person can be expected to behave from this hypothesis. To resolve feelings of dissonance, a person may change their cognition, which is to say, they may change the way they think about something or change their belief altogether. They may change their actions or behaviors to coincide with their beliefs, or the person may require selective information which justifies the previous behavior. Let's have a look at an example to better understand the theory. If a person has a habit of smoking cigarettes, a behavior, but knows that smoking is unhealthy, a cognition, the person may justify this behavior by altering their cognition. For example, smoking is only bad for pack-a-day smokers. I don't smoke that much, so it's okay. The person may now perceive the behavior as compatible with their new understanding or new cognition. The behavior can now coexist with the understanding that it is harmful because the subject has adjusted their cognition to compensate. The smoker could also reduce their dissonance in other ways, such as the addition of new information which balances the effects of smoking. For example, I read somewhere that smoking reduces stress, and stress is far more harmful for your health. Or another way to achieve compatibility might be actually just stop smoking. But given the wide range of potential paths a person could take to resolve feelings of dissonance, it may seem like this theory has a very limited predictive power. But there is more to this theory than we can apply, which narrows down the potential behaviors we might expect a person to make. Firstly, people are likely to choose a path which is the simplest and removes feelings of dissonance the fastest. Secondly, they will likely avoid any decisions which may add or threaten to add feelings of dissonance.
Assumption of the theory. The first assumption is human beings desire consistency in their belief, attitude, and behavior. This assumption emphasizes human nature model that emphasizes stability and consistency. This theory states that people will not enjoy the inconsistency in their belief and thought. Instead, they are looking for consistency. A consistent state in their belief, attitude, and behavior. The second assumption is that dissonance is created by psychological inconsistencies, refer to the fact that cognition must be inconsistent psychology. Talk about the kind of consistency that matter to the public. This theory does not hold on to the logical consistency of hardcore. On the other hand, this theory refers to the fact that cognition must be inconsistent in psychology, not logically inconsistent.
Hello, my name is Muhamad Faizat, Muhamad Sanusi. Today, I would like to present about cognitive dissonance relevance of the theory and its reality on communication situation. First, cognitive dissonance theory may be relevant to understanding. Dissonance theory applies to all situations involving attitude formation and change. This theory is able to manipulate people into certain behavior. By doing so, these people will alter their attitude themselves. It is especially relevant to decision making and problem solving. Almost half a century ago, social psychologist Leon Festinger developed the cognitive dissonance theory. The theory has obviously stood the test of time in that it is mentioned in most general and social psychologist textbooks today. The theory is somewhat counterintuitive and in fact fits into a category of counterintuitive social psychology theory, sometimes referred to as action opinion theories. Its reality on communication situation. For example, consider a driver who refuses to use a seat belt despite knowing that the law requires it and is safe life. Then a new report or a flank car incident stand the scholar into facing reality. Dissonance may be reduced by first altering behavior, start using a seatbelt so the behavior is consistent with knowing that doing so is marked. Or second, seeking information that is consistent with the behavior, airbag are safer than seatbelt. If the driver never faced a situation that threatened the decision not to use seatbelt, then no dissonance reduction action is likely because the impetus to reduce dissonance depends on the magnitude of the dissonance health. The overall strength of the dissonance can also be influenced by several factors. Passenger offer one example of how an individual might deal with dissonance related to a health behavior. Individual who smoke might continue to do so even though they know is bad for their health. Why would someone continue engaging in behavior they know unhealthy? According to Festinger, a person might decide that they value smoking more than his or her health. They mean the behavior is in terms of risk versus reward. Another way to deal with this dissonance is to minimize the potential drawbacks. The smoker might convince himself that the negative health effects have been overstated. He might also assess his health concern by telling himself that he cannot avoid every possible risk out there. Finally, Festinger suggests that the smoker might try to convince himself that if he does stop smoking, then he will gain weight, which also presents health risks. By using such explanation, the smoker is able to reduce the dissonance and continue the behavior. How to reduce it? According to Festinger's theory of cognitive dissonance, people try to seek consistency in their truth, belief, and opinion. So when there are conflict between connection, people will take steps to reduce the dissonance and feeling of discomfort. They can go about doing this a few different ways. So, for example, a man who cares about his health might be disturbed to learn that sitting for long periods of time during the day are linked to a shortened lifespan. Since he have to work all day in office and spend a great deal of time sitting, it is difficult to change his behavior in order to reduce his feeling of dissonance. In order to deal with the feeling of discomfort, he may instead find some way to justify his behavior by believing that his other healthy behavior make up for his largely sedentary lifestyle. If you believe that exercise is important for your health, but you rarely make time for physical activity, you may experience cognitive dissonance. This resulting discomfort may lead you to seek relief by increasing the amount of exercise you get each week. It's then altering your behavior to increase consistency, which your belief and reduce the cognitive dissonance you are experiencing can play a positive role in your life and health.